Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Phoenix Cinema Podcast. And the reason it's a very special episode is because it is our very first live episode that we've done, and hopefully not the last either. But it was a live episode accompanied by a screening of the movie Loving Vincent from 2017, directed by Hugh and D.K. Welchman. And we had the writer and director Hugh Welchman in attendance, and I was very fortunate to have conducted the Q&A with him afterwards in front of a live audience. And it was fantastic. Unfortunately, Luke couldn't be there because we had a bit of a conflict. And I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but we actually had tickets booked to go and see How to Train Your Dragon live in concert at the Royal Albert Hall. Going to the Royal Albert Hall and watching live concerts, movie concerts, is like our favorite thing. And so we'd had this booked months in advance. Not so much because I love the movie, but I really love John Powell's score to the movie. And so, yes, Luke and some others, along with editor and composer of the podcast, Stefan Krieger, went to that, and I encouraged them to go. But I had to stand down on that, obviously, because otherwise there would have been no one to conduct this interview. And it was such a wonderful, wonderful event. I had already seen Loving Vincent a couple of years ago in a previous film club that we were all in. And yeah, I fell in love with it the first time I saw it. It's a beautiful movie. The plot synopsis on IMDb is as follows. In a story depicted in oil-painted animation, a young man comes to the last hometown of painter Vincent van Gogh to deliver the troubled artist's final letter and ends up investigating his final days there. If you haven't seen Loving Vincent, I truly implore you to seek it out and watch it. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous film. It's probably most well appreciated on the big screen. It was wonderful to watch it again. It's the first ever fully painted animated feature film, and getting the opportunity to speak to Hugh about the movie afterwards and for him to share his insights and thoughts on the process of the entire journey of making the film, and also a bit of his own background and growing up as a filmmaker was lovely. And we could have spent another, hour, I think, talking. But anyway, as follows is going to be the recording of that live Q&A after the movie. We do apologize if there are any issues with the audio quality. We did the best we could. But yeah, for your enjoyment, please welcome to the podcast, Hugh Welchman. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a live episode of the Phoenix Cinema Podcast. Yes, this cinema does have a podcast, and I'm one of the hosts of it, the director of Loving Vincent, Hugh Welchman, everybody. Hugh, first of all, I want to thank you for joining us here today, especially in accompaniment to such a wonderful, wonderful movie such as this. I'd love for you to tell us how you got here. This is your first feature film as a writer and director, but growing up, I'm curious to know about how the movie-making bug took hold of you. Were you born into an artistic or creative family?
Sort of. I mean, I really got here because of my wife. So I think, so yes, I'm a director, I'm a writer, and I was a body double for Jerome Flynn, and a couple of other things on the film. But the film originated as a short film idea that my wife was developing before I met her. Then I met her, fell in love with her film, and persuaded her to not do it as a 10-minute short film, but to do it as an 80-minute feature film that required 56,000 frames of painting.
And thank God for that.
Very briefly, my mum's kind of artistic, so she trained as a potter. So she was always forcing me to do artistic things. I was kind of more interested in sport. And then I discovered acting, and I loved acting when I was at school. Went to university and continued acting, but then got more interested in maybe, writing, directing, producing. And when I left university, I decided I was going to go into the film business, but I didn't really know anyone at all. I had vague introductions to a couple of people. So I spent a year working as a supply teacher in history and politics, and at the same time I was working for collectives in London, film collectives in London, and pretty much all the drama was happening behind the camera, not in front of the camera. And I just realised I needed to work, with more experienced people and better training. And so then I applied to the National Film and Television School. One of my colleagues and great friend Sasha is here, who was also there in National Film and Television School the same time as me. Hi, Sasha. And really, I went to the film school wanting to do Ken Loach films, social realist dramas, used my political background. I studied politics at university, and quite accidentally got into doing animation as well. I was there studying producing, and in my first year they said, you have the option of producing live action and also producing an animation. And I was like, yeah, why not? But growing up in Basingstoke in the 1980s, for me, animation was Disney really. And then at film school they show you all this Svankmajer and all this crazy stuff from all over the world and all these short films, and whoa, this is amazing. So then I just really enjoyed doing animation as well. But still my main projects were sort of social realist kind of short films, live action short films, and one of the ones I produced got into the Cannes Film Festival, and so that was more what I was doing. And then really quite accidentally I got sort of pulled into this project Peter and the Wolf after I left film school, and that took over my life and sort of sent me off in an animation direction. But I met my wife, we did Loving Vincent, got nominated for an Oscar. I won an Oscar before for Peter and the Wolf. So it's not all been bad.
Absolutely, it sounds like you made the right choice with your career path there. Because one of the things that I noticed is in doing the research about your career, you produced quite a few films, most of them short films. You've been nominated as a producer for a BAFTA, and you won an Oscar for the short animated stop motion feature film Peter and the Wolf, which I think you told me is approaching an anniversary soon, isn't it?
20th anniversary next year.
20th anniversary. You were also a producer of an animated film called Free Jimmy, starring Woody Harrelson and Simon Pegg. Another movie another movie called The Flying Scientists, also known as The Flying Machine, and that's starring Benedict Wong and Heather Graham. I mean, these are incredible achievements, and it just goes to show that with Loving Vincent, you didn't just come out of nowhere. You had been working steadily and building a filmography and earning major industry accolades along the way. How important would you say those 15, 16 years of producing films were to prepare you for stepping into a director's shoes?
Was it 16 years? I guess.
According to IMDb.
Well, I guess, it was 13 years. So, before I started. When I was at film school, I was equally interested in writing and producing. And I kind of was quite happy living in my own head, so my own imagination. And I thought producing would be better for me as a person. like to do that first. So I had a life plan really of producing for 20 years and then writing, because I thought, producing, you have to talk to people, you have to be sociable, so I thought that would be a better kind of way round to do it. But yeah, I was always kind of writing stuff while I was producing, and I was also quite a hands-on producer. Some would say too hands-on. But directing never. I always wanted to write. Directing never occurred to me at all. That was just something that really organically came out of my working relationship, with my wife. And her first language is Polish, and we were writing in English, and the film's in English, and directing English cast, and so she wanted me to direct with her basically. I found myself quite accidentally also a director, which was fun.
Amazing. Well, what was it about the life and work of Van Gogh that inspired you to tell this story? Was it in any way influenced by the way that you would tell this story stylistically?
Yeah, my wife's background is that in Poland you can specialise in art from the age of 14, and she went to art high school from the age of 14, and she was an oil painter, graphic designer, and she at first thought that was going to be her career path, was as a painter really, but she always was really fascinated by film. So after she graduated, after 9 years of painting education, then she started getting involved in film, went to film school, and she was working as an editor, a designer, an animator on like her friends' films, and was just really gagging to direct and wanted to direct, and she thought that she wanted to combine her two passions, which was painting and film. And so she was looking around for a subject, and she'd actually done her high school dissertation when she was 16 on Van Gogh. She'd done her master's on Van Gogh as well, so she knew that very well. She knew his work very well, and thought that he was a good person. His works were interesting to kind of bring to life. And for me, I was just thrown into this world of Van Gogh, and like I was playing catch up, So at the age of 33, I was having to catch up on 17 years of her knowledge about Van Gogh, and I just totally immersed myself in it. I read over 30 books. I was like living in the Van Gogh Museum pretty much, annoying them all, in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and I was so touched by his story. And I think my wife was like, when she was a teenager, and I completely was connecting with this incredible person who obviously had troubles dealing with people in the flesh, but had this immense kind of desire to sort of empathize, to communicate with people, and I think that just extreme power somehow transmits that desire, that heart-aching desire of his sort of transmits through his work. And so I went to every museum in Europe and America that had original Van Goghs. We were working with a lot of those museums, and outside of academics, I probably, although there are a lot of just lay people who are obsessed with Van Gogh as well, who've read, many books, and we also have someone who supported our original Kickstarter in the audience, who I think has probably been to the Van Gogh Museum a few times, like myself. He really speaks deeply to people, and when we were travelling around with the film, I had many occasions where people would just come up to me and just start crying on my shoulder.
Oh,
and
wow.
They were just so happy with the film, and they had such a deep connection with Van Gogh. I know they weren't necessarily just crying up because our film was so dramatic and moving, but just because of their whole relationship with Van Gogh. And one woman in the Netherlands, she drove 5 hours, and she came up to us afterwards, and she didn't get a word out. She just hugged us, and we had that experience like throughout the world, and he just has incredible power, and it's just that kind of thwarted empathy, in there's something so sad and so touching about his experience, and he was fighting to find a way through and connect with people, and so it was surprisingly easy to be completely obsessively working on a Van Gogh project for 4 or 5 years. I mean, I was working on it like for 7 years. My wife was working on it for 10 years, but 4 years she was working on absolutely nothing else. It was actually a joyous experience. I mean, me and my wife, we moved flats 21 times during the production. One time, just because we were so busy like writing the film, we forgot to renew our lease. But we were just obsessed with the project, and we had this beautiful kind of love, between us and developing the film. So it was an incredible journey.
Sounds like such a rewarding experience. So this is the first fully painted animated feature film, which is remarkable. It reminds me of the words of Jesus Christ in The Passion of the Christ. See, Mother, I make all things new. Honestly, any excuse to quote that movie. I feel like 90% of the filmmakers who get the opportunity to work in this industry and try and sustain a career in this ever-fluctuating film industry, 90% of those people will never be able to present something new to an audience. They can be fantastic filmmakers, they can make fantastic films, but to truly give us something we've never seen done before, that's rare. So what an incredible achievement this is. Oscar nominated, and deservedly so. It should have won, but we don't have to get into that.
Not arguing with that.
You're working with a big cast of actors here, so it's so many well-known British, Irish, Scottish actors. How hard was it to convince these actors of what the plan or the process was going to be, to attempt something that in filmmaking terms had never been achieved before? Was it challenging at all?
Well, actually, the dear late John Sessions, so we weren't getting any traction from casting at all. And John, who was a friend of one of the co-producers, agreed to do Père Tanguy, and we decided to just shoot his role first. And then to paint it. And once we had that and we showed it to the other actors, they all said yes.
I see. They were on board.
Yeah, I think it was difficult to get their head around, at the script stage, what it was going to look like, what their role was as actors, I mean, their role is pretty, Jerome Flynn did a lot of green screen in Game of Thrones, and we did a lot of green screen with Loving Vincent, so actually in the end it wasn't that different, but at the beginning they couldn't get their heads around it, but when we showed them, that's what John Session looks like, it's Père Tanguy, they could imagine how they were going to look like as Van Gogh paintings. And I mean, we got for our budget level, we got a stunning cast, so we're very happy. We actually had one of our cast members, he was only available for 6 hours. So Chris O'Dowd, Postman Roulant, and it's a big role.
It's massive.
And we were told that we had a whole day with him. So we had 12 hours with him, and it turned out we had 6 hours. So that was a fun experience as a new director to do a major role in 6 hours. But
I can imagine.
He's amazing. So
he is. Yeah, absolutely. They all are. It's fantastic. We're big fans of movie scores and composers here at Phoenix Cinema and on the podcast. Clint Mansell, the composer of this movie, how did that collaboration come about?
Oh, he's pretty much the next most important person after my wife and me. I mean, we wrote the script listening only to Clint Mansell music.
Wow.
So we just listened to it non-stop for 3 years, and he was doing Noah and crazy big projects for Hollywood at the time. And we kind of badgered him 3 or 4 times a year, and eventually he said, I want to meet you in person. So we flew over from Poland to London, and we met him in person, and like we realised when we met him, you know, he wanted to meet us to tell us to stop bothering him. And you know, but then he was very kind of emotional because there was just things going on in his life, and he wanted to explain in person why he couldn't do the project. And after a couple of hours and some tears, it turned out he was doing the project. And you know, it was amazing for us. It's like we just couldn't imagine there being another composer for that project, because we'd written the whole thing to his music, and so I mean that was just such a dream for me, and I felt so sorry for my wife, because you know that was her idea, and because of the demands of such a big project, and she was managing the 120 painters, and you know she's a better painter and assessor of paintings than me, so while she was dealing with the painting side of it, I was swanning around in London recording the music and doing the sound. So, you know, and that was such a magical experience, but I was so sad that she couldn't share that.
Did you have to show Clint like a proof in concept, the way you did with John Sessions, in order for him to go, right?
No, he really got it. You know, he's a tortured artist. He really understands like Van Gogh, and you know, he wanted to read, like he went away and he read like 2 biographies on Van Gogh, so he really went deeply into it, and you know, then he wanted to see the cut without his music on, because we'd actually also edited it to his previous music, and then he wanted to see how we'd used his previous music when he'd already kind of formed his ideas for it, so he got it completely, you know.
It's a wonderful, wonderful score. I have to confess, I do listen to it often. And you know, this movie inspired me to check out more of Van Gogh's work. I think Starry Night over the Rhone being one of my favourite pieces. There was a lovely exhibition dedicated to him a few years ago, somewhere in London. I do forget where it was.
Probably the Coulthard Gallery.
Was it? Yes. My girlfriend will know, because we went together, didn't we? You've spoken to this already, but as an artist or for any creative person, I can only imagine how this must resonate with different people in different ways. You know, the misunderstood genius. How does Van Gogh's life story resonate with your own artistic ambitions? Does it inspire or otherwise?
Well, much more when we're writing the script and making the film, because you're kind of living inside his head, imagining being inside his head. So you know, of course. I lived and breathed Van Gogh for those years, but no, I mean, he was. People understood before he died, like that he was really a very important painter. So you know, he'd been recognised by Monet and the circle of painters in Paris, and you know, it wasn't that he was completely unappreciated. He had some incredible like talents who recognised that he was a very serious and interesting like voice in painting. And hopefully my communication skills and you know interpersonal skills are such that I haven't experienced you know some of the real very low depressions that he has, but at times of course you know we had some really disappointing times and tough times as filmmakers, but mainly on the one after Loving Vincent. So Loving Vincent was mainly sort of love and joy to make, even if we most of the time didn't have any money and kept moving houses.
I would like to point the audience's attention to the documentary Loving Vincent, The Impossible Dream, which does detail the journey and behind-the-scenes narrative about how this movie was made. If you love this film, it is...
Which is based on this book.
There we go.
4 copies of if anyone wants them afterwards. £25.
You've since gone on to direct The Peasants, which was released a couple of years ago. Another beautiful, visually stunning piece of work. I've noticed with some of the same actors that you used as well. That movie is also told in the same sort of aesthetic, which is it's another fully painted, animated film. Is that your style now?
Well, we really didn't know until 2016, when we're sort of 2 years into the process of making Loving Vincent, if we were going to make another oil-painted feature film again.
Mm-hmm.
It's the slowest form of filmmaking anyone has ever invented. So it takes 2 weeks to do 1 second for an animator. You know, the opening shot that, you know, where we come down from the stars at the beginning. So we had 3 painters working on that opening shot, and in total it took 18 months, that one shot. 3 of our best painters. So you have to have a very good reason to do it in that way rather than doing it in a different way. I mean, I came from stop motion, which is the other one, which is famously slow and expensive. So I found one that was even more, you know, slow and expensive, or certainly slower. But then I did 113 investor meetings, pitch meetings between me and the co-producers, because everyone liked the idea, but everyone thought it was crazy, you know. So you're painting a thing by hand. That's just, you know. So it was only when we had an advert for more painters, because we needed to recruit more painters, which we put out on the internet. And that was picked up by people who were following the project, and they reposted, and it went viral, and we got 200 million views of that in 2 months, totally unplanned. And at the beginning we were trying to like put the genie back into the bottle, and then we're like, oh, go with it. But, you know, as a result of that, everything got financed. So, you know, the head of the Van Gogh Museum, who up until now hadn't really spoken to me, and I'd been speaking to people there, and that I was this sort of person who popped up every couple of months, and they tolerated. And then all of a sudden they were like on the phone going, we reposted this, and our Facebook fan page went from 800,000 to 1.1 million, which we've been trying to get over 1 million for, you know, a couple of years now. And so then all of a sudden everything changed. Right. So it was very clear that there was a lot of interest in the film. We were pre-selling the film. And, you know, then people were going, what are you going to do next? So we were thinking, both me and my wife are huge horror film fans, and we're like, wouldn't it be great to do a painted horror film? Yeah. So that was one that we started developing. But then also, you know, after 10 years of working on a film about a Western European man, you know, my wife wanted to do something from a woman's story and something from her culture, from Poland. And so she had been listening while she was painting one of the shots for Loving Vincent. She'd been re-listening to The Peasants, which is this Nobel Prize winning novel from 100 years ago that kids in Poland hate, well, they did before our film. So it's this thick, and they have to read it when they're 16, and no one reads it. You know, maybe like 1 in 10 kids read it and love it, but, you know, most of them don't. And she was listening to it and thinking how painterly the style of writing was. And also, she felt like the main character got a bad rap at school, and in the way that she was portrayed in Polish culture, and so she really wanted to do that story next. Władysław Reymont was part of the Young Poland movement, which was a literary movement, it was a music movement, it was a sculpting movement, but it was also predominantly a painting movement. So it just worked out really nicely to put that together. And there was the 100th anniversary coming up, and you know, in Poland we got a little bit of funding for Loving Vincent, but not loads. But then obviously after we were nominated for the Oscars and won 24 Audience Awards and won Shanghai and like Annecy, and you know, then we got a lot of backing from Poland for The Peasants, and it just seemed like the right thing to do. But the other one, the painted horror film, is now what we're working on next, which is based upon the works of Francisco Goya. And, you know, I'm working to try and get that feature film, which will be bringing to life his later works, particularly the black paintings. And we'll be working to get that ready for the 200th anniversary of Goya, which is in 2028, which in painting animation terms is tomorrow.
Yes. Well, that sounds very, very exciting. And I honestly can't get enough of it. I really hope to see more of this style of filmmaking from you, because on a big screen, I think we can all agree, especially, it's undeniable.
One thing I will just add is that we did try and use a bit of AI on the peasants, but it was a failure, like a real failure, because, there just wasn't any inputs to feed it. So, and we didn't want to. We wanted to just get the main paintings done by our super talented painters, and then see if we could in between them. So a bit like the old Disney system,
right?
But it was a disaster, and we've realised that for painting animation art technique, we actually have to do the whole thing by hand each time. But now I feel like that's actually going in my favour, as everything is done in AI. When I go and pitch to people, I say, we're going to paint every single frame of this film, then actually they're really happy that we're only doing it by hand with artists, and that's the only way we can do it.
Absolutely. In our modern times, support human art. Human art always. Absolutely. Before we wrap up here, does anyone in the audience have any questions for Hugh about this film or his career? I can't really... all the way back there on the left. Yes.
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, did the painters go to one particular studio to work? Did they work in their own studios? And how did you get a consistency of colour palette across so many painters? Or did you do a lot of tweaking, sort of Photoshop tweaking?
So, it's pretty old-fashioned, because we can't have people working at home, because everyone needs to be working on one of our painting animation workstations that we invented, which is because in our original test we were doing it just on easels, and the canvas was moving and it was a nightmare, and so we invented this kind of workstation, which meant the relationship between the camera and the canvas was the same in every instance, and the whole unit was bolted into concrete flooring so that it couldn't move. So our main studio was in Gdansk. So our main studio was in Gdansk in northern Poland, and then we were co-producing with the city of Wrocław in Poland, and we had a unit there. And quite randomly, we also had a painting unit in Athens, because a friend of mine, who's a producer, said, I think we have lots of painters in Greece. So it turned out they do have a lot of painters in Greece. So we had three locations, and we had 120 people working in total, but the most we ever had at one time was 96 in those three studios. In terms of the colour consistency, the painting supervisors, so we had painting supervisors. Normally each painting supervisor had about 10 to 18 painters that they were supervising, and they would they would authorize the mixed colors before people started, and at the beginning when painters started working with us, then the painting supervisors would be checking every frame. But as they became part of our house style and they understood what was required of them, then maybe they would just check in with them once every 6 frames or something, so once every couple of days. But even then, there was some variation in terms of the colours, and DK, my wife, she was working on Resolve directly, doing the colour correction. And also the head of painting animation, Piotr Dominiak, they were both kind of doing the corrections at the end. But in terms of Photoshop, I don't think we used Photoshop. I mean, maybe once I think someone accidentally painted one of the microphones. So, we normally, assume that they were we just told them, put this background in and don't paint the microphones. And someone was obviously listening to a very exciting audiobook and spent a week painting beautifully a microphone in the background. So I think we had to use Photoshop for that, but no, mainly it was just colour grading.
Anybody else?
I just wondered
been done with all those paintings?
Good question. What I love. So, well, we did exhibitions in the first couple of years after the film. We actually did the biggest exhibition in South Korea in 2019, and we had another like big exhibition in the Netherlands, and I had bookings for sending it around the whole world, and then COVID happened, and they, have been in storage ever since. We sold around 500 of them. And if you want to buy them, go to lovingvincent.com and go to the painting section. And if you write the code London25, you can get 25% off.
There you go.
So,
I shall be doing
she's
it.
my friend.
Yeah.
That was a part on that question.
Well set up. All right, well, I think, maybe we'll wrap it up here. I want to thank you all for your time as well. Hugh, thank you very much for making this wonderful movie. We all support you here, and keep up the good work. Hugh Welchman, everybody.